When my daughter looked me straight in the eyes and told me to get out of my own house, I collapsed onto the sofa in disbelief. 3 days later, I was sleeping in my car outside the home I paid for with 40 years of hard work. That's when I realized family is like a deck of cards. The ones closest to you can deal the most devastating hand. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're from. Because trust me, this story twists more than a tornado in Texas, and you'll want to see how justice finally gets served.
My name is Robert, em Diet 68, e never imagined the biomelis because of my own flesh and blood.
For most of my life, I was just an ordinary man with an ordinary job. I worked as an accountant, nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and allowed me to provide a comfortable life for my wife, Marie, and our only daughter, Louisa. Marie passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. The kind that gives you just enough time to say goodbye, but not enough time to accept it's happening. After 42 years of marriage, I was suddenly alone in our 3-bedroom house with only memories and photographs to keep me company. Well, not entirely alone. I had Louisa. She's 38 now, married to Carson, with 2 beautiful children, my grandkids, Emma and Jack, ages 12 and 9. They lived across town, about a 20-minute drive. Close enough for Sunday dinners, but far enough that we weren't in each other's business daily. Or so I thought. Everything changed last month. It was a Tuesday morning when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I was surprised to see Louisa standing there, especially since she should have been at work. But the expression on her face, cold, determined, told me this wasn't a casual visit. "Dad, we need to talk," she said, brushing past me into the living room. No hug. No greeting. Just those 5 words that made my stomach knot instantly. I followed her, watching as she sat rigidly on the edge of Marie's favorite armchair. She wouldn't make eye contact.
What is wrong, sweetheart? Are the kids okay?
I asked, my mind racing to all the terrible possibilities. The kids are fine, she said flatly. This is about the house. Script part separator The house. I repeated, confused.
What about it? She shalled sharply.
Dad, I've been talking with a financial advisor. Carson and I have been looking at our future, and we need to make some changes. I nodded slowly, still not understanding where this was heading. That's good planning, honey.
What kind of changes?
We need to sell this house, she said firmly.
It's too big for just you.
It's a waste of space and money. We've found a nice retirement community about an hour away. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. This house, the one I'd shared with Marie for nearly 4 decades?
The one where we raised Louisa?
This is my home, I said quietly. I don't want to move. Dad, be practical, she snapped. You can barely maintain it. The yard's a mess, and I noticed the gutters need cleaning. What happens when you fall off a ladder trying to fix something? I take care of my home just fine, I insisted. Though it was true I'd let some things slide since Marie died. Louisa pulled out some brochures from her purse and thrust them at me. Look, Sunny Pines has activities, medical staff on call, and people your own age. It makes sense. I pushed the glossy pamphlets away. No, I'm not interested. Her face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. It reminded me of Marie when she'd made up her mind about something, but without any of the warmth. Dad, this isn't really a request. Carson and I have already started the paperwork.
What paperwork?
I asked, my voice rising.
This is my house.
That's when she dropped the bomb. Actually, it's not just your house. Mom left half to me in her will. I stared at her in shock. Marie and I had always owned everything jointly. When she died, I assumed it all transferred to me naturally. Had she really changed things without telling me? I don't believe you, I said, my hands starting to shake. Script part separator Louisa reached into her purse again and pulled out a folded document. Here's a copy of Mom's will. Page 3, paragraph 2. She handed it to me, and I fumbled with my reading glasses. The words swam before my eyes. I couldn't focus. This couldn't be happening. This can't be right, I muttered, scanning the document. Your mother and I never discussed this. Maybe she didn't think you could handle it, Louisa said coldly. The point is, I own half this property, and as co-owner, I've decided it needs to be sold. I felt dizzy. The room seemed to tilt sideways. Louisa, this is my home. All my memories with your mother are here. Memories don't pay bills, Dad, she replied. The truth is, you're sitting on a gold mine. This neighborhood has tripled in value. We could sell for almost $600,000. We? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Yes, we. Half for me, and half to secure your future at Sunny Pines. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Her tailored business suit, the expensive watch, the manicured nails. When had she become this person? This stranger calculating the value of my life in dollars and cents? I need time to think, I said. We don't have time, she snapped. The market's hot right now. Our agent says if we list next week, we could have offers by the weekend. Your agent. The betrayal cut deeper with each revelation. How long have you been planning this? Louisa checked her watch impatiently. Dad, I have a meeting in 30 minutes. I need you to be reasonable about this. You have until Friday to start packing. Friday. That's 3 days. The retirement community has an opening now. If we miss it, you might wait months for another spot. I stood up, my legs unsteady. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. Her eyes narrowed. Then I'll get a court order. Mom's will is clear. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. She stood, brushed invisible lint from her skirt, and moved toward the door. I'll be back Friday with boxes. Please be ready. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a prison cell locking. Script part separator, I sat on the sofa for hours after Louisa left, staring at the copy of Marie's will. The legalese made my head spin, but one thing seemed clear. According to this document, Louisa did own half the house. How could Marie have done this without telling me? That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced through rooms filled with 4 decades of memories. The kitchen where Marie taught Louisa to bake cookies. The backyard where we'd hosted countless barbecues. The bedroom where my wife had taken her last breath, holding my hand. By morning, I knew I needed help. I called my old friend, Walter, who'd retired from his law practice years ago. This doesn't sound right, Bob, Walter said after I explained everything. Something's off. Marie wouldn't have done this. I have the will right here, I said, my voice breaking. Bring it over. Let me take a look. An hour later, I sat in Walter's study while he examined the document, his reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. Bob, he said finally, where did you keep your copy of Marie's will? In the filing cabinet in my office. But I never looked at it after she passed. It was too painful. Walter nodded, understanding. And you're sure this is the same document? I don't know. Louisa handed it to me yesterday. Walter tapped the paper. This is dated 2 weeks before Marie died. Did she mention changing her will while she was in hospice? I shook my head. No. We talked about a lot of things in those final days, but not this. Something doesn't add up, Walter said. This clause about the house, it's oddly specific. And there's no mention of her personal belongings or other assets. My phone buzzed with a text from Louisa. Found movers for Friday. Be ready by 9 a.m. I showed Walter the message, my hands shaking. You're not going anywhere Friday, he said firmly. First, we need to see the original will on file with Marie's attorney. I'm calling Simmons and Granger now. Script part separator, Walter was a godsend. Within hours, he'd contacted Marie's attorney, James Granger, who sounded as confused as we were. I've never seen this document before, Granger said over speakerphone. The will I drafted for Marie looks completely different. Can you send us the official copy? Walter asked. Absolutely. I'll email it right away. But Bob, I can tell you right now, Marie never left half the house to Louisa. The home passes entirely to you. My relief was so intense I nearly collapsed. Then what's this paper Louisa showed me? I'd need to examine it, but it sounds like a forgery, Granger said gravely. When the official will arrived in Walter's inbox, the difference was clear. Marie had left me everything except for some jewelry and personal items designated for Louisa. The house was mine, completely and unquestionably. This changes everything, Walter said, printing the document. Your daughter showed you a fake will. But why would she do this? I asked, stunned. What's happened to her? Walter's expression darkened. Money makes people do terrible things, Bob. The question is, who put her up to this? We didn't have to wonder long. That evening, Walter's friend at the county records office called with disturbing news. Someone filed a title transfer document on your property last week, she reported. It names Louisa as co-owner based on inheritance. That's impossible, I sputtered. The document included a notarized copy of a will. Looks like they were trying to establish ownership before pushing you out. Walter shook his head grimly. This is fraud, plain and simple. Someone's coached her through this. I think I know who, I said, remembering the financial advisor Louisa had mentioned. She said she'd been getting advice about their future. We need to move quickly, Walter advised. Friday's only 2 days away. Script part separator The next morning, I confronted Louisa with the official will. She'd come by unexpectedly, probably to check if I'd started packing. I know the truth, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I have the real will from Mr. Granger's office. The color drained from her face. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. I placed both documents on the kitchen table. This one you showed me is fake. Your mother never left you half the house. For a moment, she looked like my little girl again, caught in a lie, uncertain what to do next. Then her expression hardened. Carson says you're just confused. The will I showed you is the final version. Carson. The pieces started falling into place. Is he behind this? Her phone rang. She glanced at it nervously. I need to take this. I could hear a man's voice shouting through the speaker as she stepped onto the porch. When she returned, her hands were trembling. I have to go, she mumbled, avoiding my eyes. Louisa, talk to me. What's really going on here? She hesitated at the door. You don't understand. We need this money. What money? The house. The development group offering to buy this whole block. They'll pay double market value, but only if they get all 10 houses. I blinked in confusion. What development group? The one Carson works for now. His boss says this is the last property they need. The betrayal cut even deeper. My son-in-law wasn't just helping Louisa claim my house. He was working for the company trying to buy it. So this was never about my welfare or Sunny Pines. Tears filled her eyes. We're drowning in debt, Dad. Carson made some bad investments. We could lose everything. So you decided to steal my home instead? I'm sorry, she whispered before rushing out. After she left, I called Walter. It's worse than we thought. Carson works for developers wanting this property. That explains the urgency, Walter said grimly. Bob, they've committed fraud. We need to go to the police. She's still my daughter, I protested. Who was ready to throw you out on the street in 2 days, he reminded me. Listen, I've scheduled an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. The judge needs to see these documents before Friday. I hung up, heartbreaking. How had it come to this? Preparing to face my own daughter in court. Script part separator That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the house, the home I'd built a life in, reminded me of what I stood to lose. Not just walls and a roof, but my last physical connection to Marie. At dawn, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring at our wedding photo. What would she think of all this? Her daughter forging her will, plotting to seize our home? The doorbell rang at 7:30 a.m. Through the peephole, I saw Carson, my son-in-law, standing on my porch in an expensive suit. Robert, we need to talk man-to-man, he said when I opened the door. I let him in reluctantly. He'd always been charming, too charming, Marie used to say. This situation has gotten out of hand, he began, pacing my living room. Louisa's upset, you're upset. There's a simple solution. Which is, sign these papers. He pulled a folder from his briefcase. It's a voluntary transfer of the property. In exchange, we'll ensure you're comfortable at Sunny Pines for the rest of your life. I leafed through the dense legal document. And if I refuse? Carson's smile tightened. Don't make this difficult, Robert. You're an old man living alone in a house too big for you. Be reasonable. Was it reasonable to forge my wife's will? I asked quietly. He stiffened. That's a serious accusation. I have the real will, Carson. And I know about your development deal. His charming facade cracked. You have no idea what's at stake. My boss needs this deal closed by month's end. Millions are on the line. And my home is just collateral damage? It's just a house. He snapped. Sign the papers and everyone wins. Fight this, and you'll regret it. Is that a threat? It's reality. Who do you think a judge will believe? A confused old widower or your successful daughter and her husband? I guess we'll find out, I said, opening the door. The hearing's in 2 hours. Script part separator, His face darkened. What hearing? The emergency hearing Walter arranged. To stop you from forcing me out tomorrow. Carson's cool demeanor cracked completely. You stupid old man. Do you know what you've done? He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in painfully. This deal is worth millions. I pulled away. Get out of my house. This isn't over, he hissed, snatching back his papers. You'll regret this. After he left, I called Walter, hands shaking. Carson just threatened me. Document everything, Walter advised. We're building a case. 2 hours later, I sat beside Walter in courtroom B of the county courthouse. Judge Elena Martinez presided, her sharp eyes scanning the documents before her. This is highly irregular, she noted, frowning at the falsified will. Where is the other party? As if on cue, the doors burst open. Louisa hurried in, followed by Carson and a slick-looking attorney I'd never seen before. Your Honor, the attorney began smoothly, this emergency hearing is unnecessary. My clients simply want what's rightfully theirs. Walter stood. Your Honor, we have evidence of document fraud and an attempt to deprive my client of his rightful property. The judge examined both wills. These are significantly different documents. Louisa's attorney stepped forward. The elderly often become confused. I'm not confused, I interrupted. That will is fake. We'll need testimony from Mr. Granger, Judge Martinez decided. And I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. No one moves anything from that house until we sort this out. Hearing continued next Tuesday. Louisa wouldn't look at me as they left. Carson, however, shot me a look of pure hatred. Outside the courthouse, Walter patted my shoulder. First round goes to us. But I felt hollow. I'd won nothing but time, and lost my daughter in the process. Script part separator, As we walked to the parking lot, Walter's phone rang. His expression turned serious as he listened. Change of plans, he said after hanging up. James Granger's coming to meet us at my office right now. He's found something we need to see immediately. 30 minutes later, we sat in Walter's study as Granger spread documents across the desk. I've been reviewing all of Marie's files, Granger explained, his normally calm demeanor agitated. I found these in our archives. He handed me a sealed envelope. My name was written on it in Marie's handwriting. She left instructions that this was to be opened only if someone contested the will, Granger said. Given the circumstances. With trembling fingers, I broke the seal. Inside was a letter and several bank statements. My dearest Robert, Marie had written. If you're reading this, then my fears about Carson have proven true. I've been watching him for years. These bank statements show multiple large withdrawals from Louisa's accounts. I believe he's gambling. I've arranged protection for you through a living trust that Carson knows nothing about. The house isn't just yours by will. It's in a separate trust he can't touch. I'm sorry I kept this from you, but I hoped I was wrong. Protect our daughter. She may not see the danger she's in. All my love, Marie. I stared at the papers, stunned. Even from beyond the grave, Marie was protecting me. There's more, Granger said. I've submitted an emergency petition to nullify any property transfers based on the fraudulent will. The judge granted it this morning. Walter whistled. That means the developers have no legal claim even if Louisa signed something. Carson won't take this lying down, I said, remembering the hatred in his eyes. He doesn't have a choice, Granger replied. But there's something else you should know. I did some digging into this development company. They're under federal investigation for fraud and money laundering. My blood ran cold. What about Louisa and my grandchildren? That's why we need to move fast, Walter said. Carson isn't just after your house. He's desperate. Men like that are dangerous when cornered. Script part separator ===. When I returned home that evening, I knew something was wrong. The front door stood slightly ajar, though I was certain I'd locked it. Inside, the house looked like a tornado had hit. Drawers pulled out, furniture overturned, picture frames smashed. Hello, I called, heart pounding. Is anyone here? Silence answered me. I moved carefully through the wreckage of my home, cataloging the damage. The television was gone. Marie's jewelry box had been emptied. But most disturbing of all, the filing cabinet in my office stood open, papers strewn everywhere. I called the police immediately. While waiting, I phoned Walter. Carson, he said grimly when I described the break-in. He's looking for the trust documents. 2 officers arrived, taking photos and dusting for fingerprints. I couldn't tell them my suspicions about Carson, not without proof. Instead, I reported it as a random burglary. After they left, my phone rang. Louisa's number. Dad, are you okay? I just heard about the break-in. Her voice sounded strange, tight with fear. I'm fine. Nothing that can't be replaced, I said cautiously. Dad, she broke off, her voice dropping to a whisper. I can't talk long. Carson's in the shower. What's going on, sweetheart? He's been lying to me. About everything. The development deal fell through weeks ago. He forged those documents because we're drowning in debt. Come stay with me, I urged. Bring the kids. I can't. He checks my phone. Monitors my movements. God, I'm scared. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in horror, then immediately called Walter. We need to help Louisa. Now. First, you need somewhere safe to stay, Walter insisted. Carson knows where you live, and he's desperate. I'm not abandoning my home again. Then I'm staying with you tonight, Walter declared. And tomorrow, we're getting a restraining order against your son-in-law. Script part separator ===. 2 police officers arrived the next morning to take a formal statement about the break-in. Officer Daniels, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, listened carefully as I described finding my home ransacked. And you have no idea who might have done this? She asked, making notes. I hesitated. I have my suspicions, but no proof. Any suspicion should be shared, sir, her partner, Officer Rivera, said firmly. Even without hard evidence. After explaining the situation with Carson and Louisa, Officer Daniels frowned. This sounds like more than a property dispute. Are you concerned for your daughter's safety? Yes, I admitted. She called me last night, sounding frightened. Said Carson monitors her movements. The officers exchanged glances. That's concerning, Daniels said. Domestic situations can escalate quickly. They promised to drive by Louisa's house and recommended I file for an emergency restraining order immediately. Walter had already prepared the paperwork. By noon, we were back at the courthouse. Judge Martinez remembered our case from the day before. This is disturbing, she said, reviewing both the restraining order request and the police report. I'm granting a temporary order against Carson Phillips, effective immediately. He's to stay 500 feet from you and your property. What about my daughter and grandchildren? I asked anxiously. We can't include them unless they request protection themselves, the judge explained. But I'm ordering a welfare check at their residence. As we left the courthouse, Walter's phone rang. His face paled as he listened. We need to go to Louisa's house now, he said urgently after hanging up. That was Officer Daniels. Carson became aggressive when they tried to talk to Louisa. They've detained him, but she's badly shaken. We drove across town at breakneck speed. Police cars surrounded Louisa's colonial-style home, lights flashing. Neighbors stood in clusters on lawns, watching the commotion. I spotted my grandchildren sitting in a patrol car, Emma comforting her younger brother. My heart broke seeing their frightened faces. Then I saw Louisa, sitting on the front steps, an officer beside her as she gave a statement. When she looked up and saw me, her face crumpled. "Dad," she whispered as I rushed to her side. "I'm so sorry for everything. Script part separator, I wrapped my arms around her, feeling her body shake with sobs. For a moment, we were just father and daughter again, the complicated mess of the past week falling away. "It's okay," I murmured, though we both knew it wasn't. Officer Daniels approached us. "Mrs. Phillips, we found financial documents in your husband's office. There's evidence of significant gambling debts and loans from some concerning individuals." Louisa nodded weakly. He kept saying one big win would fix everything. Then he heard about the development deal for Dad's neighborhood. "Did you know the will was forged?" I asked gently. "Not at first," she admitted, wiping her eyes. "He brought me papers to sign, said Mom had left me half the house. When I questioned it, he got angry. Said I needed to trust him." "Mr. Carson Phillips is being charged with document fraud," Officer Rivera informed us. "And there may be additional charges related to the break-in at your father's house." "He did that?" Louisa gasped. "He told me he was working late." Walter, who had been speaking with another officer, joined us. "Louisa, there's something else you should know. Your mother suspected Carson's gambling problem years ago. She set up protections to make sure your father would be secure." "Mom knew." Louisa looked stunned. "She was trying to protect both of us," I said, remembering Marie's letter. Emma and Jack ran over, throwing themselves into their mother's arms. "Is Dad going to jail?" Emma asked, her voice small. Script part separator, Louisa smoothed Emma's hair, struggling to find the right words. "Your dad made some bad choices, honey. He needs help, and yes, he might be in trouble with the law for a while." Jack looked up at me with wide eyes. "Can we stay with Grandpa?" I felt a lump in my throat. "Of course you can, buddy. For as long as you need." Officer Daniels pulled me aside while Louisa comforted the children. "Mr. Anderson, we found something concerning in Mr. Phillips' office. There were photos of your house, detailed notes about your schedule, and," she hesitated, "what appears to be a life insurance policy he took out on you 6 months ago." I felt a chill run down my spine. He was planning something worse than just taking my house, wasn't he? She nodded grimly. "We've contacted the fraud division. Between the forged will, the insurance policy, and his gambling debts, your son-in-law is facing serious charges." Walter joined us, his expression grave. "The FBI is involved now. Carson's development company has connections to organized crime. They were using property deals to launder money." "What happens now?" I asked. "Carson remains in custody," Officer Daniels explained. "Given the new evidence, the DA will likely pursue multiple felony charges." That evening, I brought Louisa and the children to my house, our house. Walter helped us clean up the mess from the break-in while Emma and Jack explored the backyard. Louisa stood in the living room, staring at the family photos that had survived the rampage. "I was so blind," she whispered. "Carson kept saying we needed money for the kids' college funds. I never questioned where all our savings went." I put my arm around her shoulders. "Your mother saw it coming somehow. She protected us both." "I don't deserve your forgiveness," Louisa said, tears streaming down her face. "You're my daughter," I replied simply. "Marie would want us to stick together." Later that night, after the children were asleep in the guest room, Louisa and I sat on the porch swing, the same one where she'd played as a child. "What happens with the court case about the house?" she asked quietly. "There's no case anymore," I told her. "The judge dismissed it when the forged will came to light." She nodded, looking out at the darkened yard. "Dad, I want to make this right somehow." "You already are," I said, squeezing her hand. 4 weeks later, we all gathered in the courthouse for Carson's arraignment. The charges were extensive: fraud, forgery, breaking and entering, insurance fraud, and conspiracy. When they let him in, handcuffed and wearing an orange jumpsuit, I barely recognized the charming man who'd married my daughter.
Carson às mete Minha cross de courtroom.
Instead of hatred, I saw something worse: emptiness. He'd gambled away everything that mattered, and finally realized what he'd lost. After the hearing, as we walked down the courthouse steps, a reporter approached us.
Mr.
Anderson, how does it feel to have your home and family back? I looked at Louisa and my grandchildren standing beside me. Some might expect me to feel vindicated or triumphant, but that's not what fills my heart today. What does?
The reporter pressed.
Gratitude, I said simply. My wife protected us even after she was gone. And now, our family has a second chance. That evening, as Emma and Jack helped me plant Marie's favorite flowers in the garden, I watched Louisa hanging wind chimes on the porch, the ones her mother had loved. The sound they made in the gentle breeze seemed to whisper that everything would be all right. Sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't the houses we live in, but the memories we create within them. And thanks to Marie's foresight and love that reached beyond the grave, we had the chance to make new memories together. The house that Carson tried to take from me had become something more valuable than property. It had become a home again, filled with laughter and love, just as Marie would have wanted. But as I watched my family healing, I knew that while our story had found its resolution, countless others faced similar betrayals behind closed doors. Marie had taught us one final lesson: true love protects, even when we can't see the danger coming. In our case, justice wasn't just about keeping a house, it was about rebuilding the home within it.